Hey y'all, it's Amanda and this is my Texas Zone 8 garden, and today we are going to be starting 3 new varieties of vining type plants that can be used for multiple purposes. And then at the very end of the video, I'm going to do my first floral arrangement from the cut flower garden. Okay, so I recently harvested a bunch of cut flowers that you all just saw: snapdragons, ranunculus, iris, cress, and I'm really excited. So I'm going to do an arrangement at the very end of this video, but we're going to go ahead and start with 3 new vines that I'm going to be starting from seed. Now, 2 of these vines I've never grown before. They're very different from me, and then one of them I have grown before. So let's go ahead and chat a little bit about what we're doing, and then we're going to plant each one along the way. One of my big goals for this year was to add height and whimsical elements to my garden, and doing that with vines is definitely something that I'm interested in. And so recently, well, not recently, in the past fall, I ended up purchasing a whole bunch of seeds from MI Gardener. They had their big sale, and one of the seeds that I purchased is Birdhouse Gourds. Now, I have an aunt, my Aunt Barb, who she grew Birdhouse Gourds for years, and then she would paint them and carve them and do all these like beautiful things with the Birdhouse Gourds. So they were already on my radar as a potential possibility. And then when I saw them on sale at MI Gardener, I was like, yes, let's give that a try. Now, these are not grown for edible use. They're actually toxic. They are grown for medicinal use, although if that's something you're interested in, definitely get with someone who's knows about that stuff and has done a lot of research regarding medicinal use of Birdhouse Gourds. That's not me. So I will not be utilizing them for that purpose. I am utilizing them because I would like to actually create some actual birdhouses to go up in my willow tree for next fall and into spring. Okay, so Birdhouse Gourds are also known as calabash or bottle gourd. Some people call them water bottle gourds. They take about 120 to 150 days to mature. A long time. I really should have started them a little bit earlier, but I still think we're fine. I think you need minimum 6 months to get them to maturity wise. They do love it hot and humid, and they do great with droughts. Like, I think I have the perfect location for them in my Zone 8 Texas area. Now, they do need full sun, rich, well-draining soil with lots of compost. They can be grown in zones 2 through 11, and they can get up to 20 feet long. You are definitely going to want to have them on some type of trellis. You can allow the vines to grow across the ground. However, there's more of a chance that the gourds are going to rot if you do that. So actually training them up over a trellis is going to be very cool for my space, because then I'm just going to have these very cool, like, Birdhouse Gourds hanging, which I'm just so excited about. Now, they do not like to have their roots disturbed. So I'm going to be starting these. I'm going to probably start these in my Vigo containers. I have a little bit longer of a root structure. And then once they get sprouted and get going, I'm going to probably transfer them very quickly into a larger container. I don't want to allow them to put on a lot of root structure before transferring them over. They do have a massive root structure, but since they do die back over the winter, I'm not really worried about it if it takes over like a whole container or a whole pot or something like that, because that root structure will end up dying during the freeze and just adding nutrients into the existing soil. Now they do have fuzzy green leaves and white flowers. The white flowers are pollinated by nocturnal insects. So the white flowers are actually going to bloom at nighttime, and they'll be pollinated by whatever insects are up at night, which I think is very cool and unusual. They love the full sun and they like acidic soil. So one of the first things that I did is I actually ended up soaking them overnight. So let's take a look at them. Okay, so these are the Birdhouse Gourds that I got from In My Gardener. So I got 10 of them in here. And they are very cool looking seed. These have been soaking for almost 24 hours. They have a very thick outside coating. They can be soaked up to 2 to 3 days. And we are going to be clipping the edge to help encourage the seedling to burst out of the covering of the seed. So very, very cool. And then, I mean, how awesome are those? They look so cool. So these are planted about 1 inch deep, and I have a lot of information on here. They have about they have to dry for about 3 to 6 months before you can use them. I mean, this is a long process, but I'm really excited to kind of try it out and see what ends up happening. It does say 7 to 10 days to germination. That is not what I have seen most everyone else say. So I have seen that they can take up to 30 days for germination. So let's go ahead and get these planted and started. Okay, so I'm just starting with my basic BM, Burger BM setting potting soil, and I'm really actually only going to fill the 4 corners here because I only have 4 seeds. I am not looking to grow a bunch of these. I would maybe keep 1 vine to myself. Each vine is going to produce about 2 to 3 fruits on it, sometimes more, just depending. And 2 to 3 is really all about what I need. But just in case that I don't get good germination, I'm going to go ahead and start 4. If for some reason I get excellent germination, then what I will do is I will just pass them on to Kristen or a neighbor. I have some neighbors behind me that grow a lot of cool stuff like this, and so I'll just pass it along to them if they would like. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and nick these seeds. I'm just using a pair of nail clippers, and I'm going to nick 1 at the bottom and 1 at the top, just because I'm new to these seeds and I'm not really sure which side to nick at. So we'll just do both. I'm really just trying to nick through the coating. All right. And these are planted 1 inch deep, so I'm just going to use my little dauber and drop my seed in each one. I'm really excited to start these. These are just very cool. It will be interesting to see what kind of success I have with them. And if I end up liking them, then I'll probably, in the future, if I decide I want to grow more, I'll probably spend some time creating some more substantial structures, because you are going to need some substantial structure. Now, these fruits aren't very heavy. They're only about 2 to 3 pounds. So they're not super heavy or anything, but still, we do want to make sure that you have a sturdy surface or a sturdy trellis for them. All right. Okay. And I'll just go ahead and put that in there. We're good to go, and we'll get this in a water reservoir at the end to get them all watered. Okay, next on my list is Luffa gourds, and I definitely am growing loofahs for the final project, the loofah sponge. I think that those would be really kind of cool. I like the idea of growing stuff in my garden that I can utilize in my household. I think it's really fun. obviously I grow cut flowers. It's not an essential for my household. And then I do grow things like tomatoes and peppers and that kind of stuff for culinary purposes. This is kind of cool because it's an element that you can use in your everyday life, like the sponge. I think is very cool. So I'm really excited to try these out. So these are sometimes spelled differently, and I'll put the different spelling up there. They're native to Asia. They love hot weather, acidic soil, and at least 6 hours of sunlight. They it's about 90 to 120 days to grow and up to 200 to harvest for sponges, because they do have to dry on the vine in order to be able to harvest for the sponge. The vines are about 2 to 3 feet wide by 8 to 12 feet long. They are hardy in zones 7 to 13. They will need a trellis or post with wires to allow vining and good air circulation, because they can definitely get like powdery mildew. So that's something important. You want to keep the fruit off the ground to prevent rot, discoloration, uneven curved growth. Keep soil moist. Fertilize 2 to 3 times per season. Which is interesting because the Birdhouse Gourds don't actually need a lot of fertilization, but it sounds like the Luffa do need some type of fertilization, which is very cool. So I ended up getting my seeds from M.I. Gardner. It's just called Luffa gourd. These gourds grow prolific amounts that are great for soap crafts. When fully mature, the inside will become a dry husk with the sponge is just beneath. But it does take 3 to 6 months in a dry area with good ventilation to cure. In the early stages of growth, the gourd is edible when still green and about 4.5 inches in length. Natural, homegrown, and better than anything you can buy in the store. So this says its germination rate is about 7 to 10 days. And it does say it needs to germinate about 70 to 90 degrees. So it does sound like we're going to need it on a heater. And I believe, yes, the Birdhouse gourd was 70 to 90 degrees as well. So we're going to have these on a heat mat to germinate, which I think will help out a lot. It says the fruit are about 12 to 24 inches long, and we are planting these about 1 inch deep. So let's go ahead and take a look at them. Okay, so I've been soaking these overnight as well. Just to kind of give them a jump start. You can see that they swelled greatly. So here's what they originally are coming out of the package, and then look how big we are now. Awesome. So I definitely feel like doing that was the way to go. And I am starting quite a few because I am going to give some to Kristen because she likes to grow loofah as well. She grows them up over some trellis as well. So we've got our seeds and they are buried about an inch deep. So we're going to go ahead and add soil to my Vigo seed starting trays. Now these seed starting trays I bought maybe last season. And while I do like them, I didn't like the price, and I didn't like that I had to buy the elements separate. Like I had to buy the bottom, then I had to buy the top, and then I had to buy the separate water reservoir. I just wasn't a fan of that, just too much. But I do really like their longer, the longer depth in the seed cells, and I do like the slits that allow for better air circulation. That also has a hole at the bottom that when you're ready to get to seed in that, you just push out. So that's really great as well. So I do think it's way easier to get the seedlings out of these containers. So these are about 1 inch deep. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to poke a hole with my little dauber. Now this soil is moist because of a past project that I was doing yesterday. I don't typically start with moist soil. We'll go ahead and get at least one in each of these, and then we'll double up on a few of them. Let's go ahead and do half of them dropped in, and then the other I'm going to use, I'm just going to make a little nick with my nail clippers, see if that helps with germination. I don't know, these feel really soft. I don't know that that's necessary, but I don't think I'm going to do it with the rest, but I don't think it's necessarily. So the 3 on this side, 3 on this part right here do not have any nicks. So I think what I'll do is I'll put the tag over there on the side that don't have nicks, just for reference. So I'm just gonna put the tag right here on this side, so we know that that's the one that we're nicked. So we'll be able to watch that. And then I'll put the top on, and then we'll add it to a water reservoir in a minute. Okay, and then the last vine we're gonna get started is a black-eyed Susan vine, specifically Spanish eyes. And I've grown these before, and they are wonderful. So I'm really excited about getting them. I actually had them planted. I'll see if I can find some footage. I had them planted in a pot on a trellis on the west side garden. So they got full on heat, and they were stunning, and they went bonkers. They were everywhere. They flowed down and around and through the garden. They were glorious. Absolutely love them. So definitely wanted to start them again. So this vine is about 5 to 8 feet long. It requires full sun to part shade, 15 to 20 days to germinate, and it's an annual except in zones 5 through 10. And there are countless ways to enjoy this cheery sun-loving vine. Window boxes, ground covering on a trellis, as a screen, in hanging baskets, decorating mailboxes, columns, very fast growing with lush foliage and masses of blooms all summer. Long and dazzling, eye-catching array of sunset hues. The petals make a brilliant contrast to the dark Spanish eyes, which are the dark centers of it. Grown as an annual, although a perennial in zones 8 to 10. So these take 15 to 18 days to germinate. They are going to be planted at a depth of 1/8 of an inch. So not very far at all. I did go ahead and soak these as well because I had low germination rate on them last year. So I wanted to go ahead and try soaking them and see if that would help out on the germination rate. So let's go ahead and get these planted. Okay, for these seeds, I'm actually going to switch back to my Amazon seed starting trays because they're my favorite. And it's also because I'm starting more seeds. The Vigo ones only hold 9 or 8 seeds. These will hold 12. So just run my soil across and then use a couple of fingers to push down and make sure that we have, good contact in there. And these seeds I also soaked as well, and I soaked all of them so I don't have the actual original seed, but they have definitely grown a lot in size. I'll try to put a picture so you can see better up here. They almost have like a little divot, like a little hole in each of them. So I'm just going to drop one seed in each of these. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and press them down to make sure that they have really good contact with the soil. All right, and then I'm going to go across with a little bit more soil. These were only 1/8 of an inch, so just like that, and we'll put them in their water reservoir and we'll get water added to those. Okay, I've got a water reservoir. So with this guy, the Amazon one, instead of putting it in its own water reservoir, I'm going to put it in here just because it makes watering a little bit easier. I'm going to put these other 2 additional ones in here. I'm going to make sure I put a lid on the Amazon one and making sure that everything is closed regarding the humidity domes. Okay, I don't see the warmth requirements for the Spanish eyes. I'm assuming that since they are a warm temperature plant that they need a warm temperature to go ahead and germinate. So I've got stuff going back here. I've got my elephant ears going back here, and we've already got some that are peeking out through the soil, which is very exciting. So I'm going to go ahead and set up an additional heat mat on here, and then we will go ahead and put these in place. Now, I've got the elephant ears on heat mats because after I started them a week ago, several of y'all were like, hey, you should stick them on a heat mat. That's just a genius idea. So I've got them on here, follow Jill's directions. And so I think that's going to help a lot with the growth. So if you are starting elephant ears, consider putting them on a heat mat as well. Let's see, will this fit here? Negatory. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move all of these down. Now, got them on the heat mat. Once these sprout, I will need to lift this whole container up closer to the light so that my seedlings don't get too leggy. And I am going ahead and filling this reservoir with the water so that it can begin to soak up additional water into the containers and stay nice and moist. You definitely don't want these to dry out during the germination process, or you saw some of the outside of those seeds. There's some big seeds. So you don't want to let them dry out or they are not going to germinate. Okay, I'm excited. 3 different types of vines for my gardens. Very whimsical. All of them are unique in their own way. And we'll see if I can just get one birdhouse one germinated. That would be amazing. We'll see what happens. I definitely think I could have started these earlier inside, but since the loofah and the birdhouse don't actually like their roots to be messed around with, I think starting them a little bit later is better. As you saw, a lot of my plants really just got overgrown before I even had the opportunity to get them into the ground. Now you can also direct seed these. I don't have a lot of luck with direct seeding in my experience. I do find with direct seeding things like zinnias, sunflowers, and celosia. Those are pretty much the only ones I'd have an easy time getting to germinate. All other ones I struggle with outside, mainly because I forget to water. I'm just not paying attention to them, which I think is important. So this will be better for me to do that. Once the loofah and the Birdhouse Gourds germinate and sprout, I'm going to move them pretty quickly into some larger containers so they can put on a larger root system without being disturbed. So I'll definitely have a video on that. But for now, let's go ahead and arrange some flowers. Okay, so got my first batch of cut flowers harvested for this season, and I'm obsessed. We'll go over them real quick. These right here are a Dutch iris. These are bulbs that come back semi-okay for me. I feel like I get less and less each year, so I always add more each year, and I plant these in the fall for spring blooms. I also have ranunculus. I have 3 varieties of ranunculus. We have Tomer purple, Tomer pink, and Tomer white. And they are corms that I planted in the fall and overwintered them. Anytime we were going to have freezes, I made sure that I had frost cloths over them, and I made sure that they were protected from freezes, because the ranunculus corms, if they freeze, they rot. They're done. So that was an experiment for me this year to start them in the fall as opposed to the spring. I'm going to be starting them in the fall over and over and over again. I've never had the ranunculus this early and so prolific. Absolutely beautiful. Very exciting. As the ranunculus finish blooming and when their leaves start turning yellow and brown, I will dig up all those corms and I will save them inside during the summer, and then I'll get them restarted again in the fall. I also have snapdragon varieties here. I think I listed them in the video that you saw earlier. The snapdragons were planted in the fall. I started them from seed during late summer, planted them in the fall, and then they overwintered just fine with freezes and everything. And then they give me early spring blooms. So they're beautiful. And then finally, I have a kind of filler greenery, which is called green dragon cress. I planted it one time and it reseeds itself everywhere. So fair warning. I spent a lot of time pulling this stuff up, although it's beautiful for flower arrangements. So that is something to be aware of. You'll see me in some upcoming videos pulling out a ton of this stuff in my raised beds. So, and when I first started this, I think I started 6 seedlings, and it can go everywhere. I could have a full backyard of this if I wanted. So it is a very aggressive reseeder. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start very simply with just a beautiful blue and white salt glazed pitcher. I collect these. I have maybe 6 or 7 in my collection. This is my largest one. And I am going to try to get pretty much all the blooms in this. I think I'm going to do a handheld bouquet. So I'm going to design in my hand. I'm right-handed. So I'm going to design that. I'm going to hold the bouquet in my left hand and then use my right hand to put flowers in. And then once that's all done, I'll trim it off and I'll put it in the vase. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, when starting flowers, I like to, instead of leaving them all in the bucket like this, I like to go ahead and pull them out and lay them out on the table because it's easier for me to pick up the stems. And you can divide them up by variety, color, whatever you want as you're laying each one down. And yes, I'm crazy. I'm going to try to use all of them in the same arrangement. I just want a big, beautiful, full arrangement for my kitchen table. Sounds glorious. Some of these ranunculus are a little bit older. They've been blooming for about 2 weeks already. All right, so I'm going to start with some of these bigger pieces of cress, just because it's easier to kind of start with something like that, and then start working things into it. And we'll start tucking in some of the iris. So once again, I'm just holding it in my left hand, and then I'm going to kind of just start working around. So I'll put, I always go stem first towards my hand like that, and then I rotate the bouquet. And I just pick up flowers that I think look pretty, and I just start tucking them in. And it's as simple as that. If you're new to starting hand-tied flower arranging, you definitely want to start smaller. I have big, like man hands. I have big hands. So I can hold a lot of flowers and I can make a pretty large stinking bouquet like this. Oh, so pretty. So anyway, I'm just adding flowers and I'm rotating. Just as simple as that. Taller stems to the middle, shorter stems to the outside. Adding a little bit of cress as I go, which I should have stripped all these stems ahead of time, but I didn't do that. The cress go a long way to support things like the ranunculus, which tend to sometimes have floppy heads. Then you can even come in and you can insert a stem like this into the center. So you don't always have to be putting it from the outside. Oh, it's okay. Snaps, they snap. It's okay. Your stems are a little bit weaker. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to put the white in. I really just like all the color right now. I'm going to start putting in some ranunculus, and I'm going to try to have them sit up a little bit higher in the arrangement. Since they're smaller and more delicate, they can get lost a little bit. I don't know if I can get all these in. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I'm not going to put the whites in. Definitely still have a few more cress that I can tuck in. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to tie this off. I'm just going to come in and I'm going to trim the base. Trim it right into this bucket. So they're all even. And then I've already got water in my vase. So I'm going to nestle this in carefully. And then I'm going to let go as I'm nestling into the vase so it can fill out a little bit. Oh my gosh, that's so pretty. Okay, and then at this point I can come in with some of the cress. I'm just stripping off the leaves at the bottom. You don't want your leaves hanging out in the water because it can breed disease in your water faster. And then what I'm going to come in is I'm just going to come and I'm going to lift the flowers a little bit on the edge and tuck in some stems of cress. So I really like the soft, dainty texture of the cress. And the white ranunculus I'm just going to put in its own little vase. Okay, that was exciting. I broke my Lazy Susan, so I need a new one, but I mean, it's ridiculous, right? I'm excited. This is what I've been working for. So it's really exciting to have such a full, lush bouquet at this time of the year. You can kind of lift up and like gently separate these a little bit to make your bouquet a little fuller, or you can kind of push them together and back into the container. But I'm going to set this on my kitchen table and I'm going to enjoy it for a lot of days to come. These will probably last about anywhere from 5 to 7 days. I harvested a lot of the ranunculus when they were a little bit older because I was just really enjoying them outside. I thought they looked beautiful. I could see them right outside my kitchen window, which was lovely. So I'm excited. We have a lot more blooms on the way. I have a lot more Dutch iris that I planted. There were brand new bulbs that I planted in the fall that are in the front yard, so we'll be harvesting a lot more of those. These Dutch iris have actually been in that location in the garden for 3 years now. I have a lot more snapdragons coming. I have a lot more ranunculus coming, and I totally have a lot more cress coming. All right, you all, I hope you enjoyed today's video, learning about these 3 new vines that I'm starting from seed and watching me harvest and make the first floral arrangement of the season. As always, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Drop me a comment below. Let me know how far away you are from your cut flowers, or if you have grown Birdhouse Gourd or Luffa gourds before. I'm very interested to hear what your experience has been with that. And make sure you check me out on my social media outlets, including Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. As always, she's a mad gardener or a decorator or anything else that she wants to be. Thanks, y'all.